So just as a way of background, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada was established in 2008, and its purpose was to raise public awareness and address ongoing societal impacts related to the Indian residential school system. In June 2015, the TRC issued 94 calls to action for all sectors, and many of those are justice-related, and we refer to those in the materials that are provided in your pack. The CBABC has taken the implementation of the calls to action very seriously. They're very committed to this work. So are the 20 working group members. Sometimes we wonder what this is all about. It's basically two things. It arises from what the Truth and Reconciliation Commission has told us, and it's the first side of it is the truth side of it, which is what they say is without it, justice is not served, healing cannot happen, and there can be no genuine reconciliation between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people in Canada. So the truth side, of course, is the history with the actual facts of what has occurred in Canada. And then there's the other side of that, which is the reconciliation side, which is an ongoing process of establishing meaningful relationships. What they mean by that is it's a three-component process. One is repairing damaged trust by making apologies. The second is providing individual and collective reparations. And third is concrete activities that demonstrate real societal change. And that's what we are doing or intending to do with the Working Truth and Reconciliation Working Group. It's showing some real commitment on behalf of the Canadian Bar Association BC branch, and that's the aim of our work moving forward. With respect to what the working group is about, as I mentioned, we were established in 2017. We rolled it out in this room a year ago. There are 20 members of the working group at the moment. The 20 members represent various practice areas, from Crown Counsel to business lawyers to sole practitioners to family law lawyers to individuals that are working in the civil world and the criminal world. So we have a number of different perspectives that are being brought to the table, and about 8 of the members are Indigenous lawyers. One of the things that we try to do and we continue to do is foster an open environment where we bring in members who want to volunteer, because of course this is volunteer work, but also to balance Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal members, which we've been able to do. We continue to bring on new members with any volunteer purpose. Sometimes we lose people, but then we also attract others, so it's an ongoing event. Now, we have a number of appendices attached to the interim report, and one of those appendices talks about, lists all the members, so I'd invite you to go there and look to see who those individuals are. The working group itself, which is the larger group, the 20 people, we meet monthly by phone typically, and the 5 sub-working groups all work independently in between that time, and they bring the chair of each of those working groups reports out at that monthly meeting. We take minutes, and we have all of those minutes if anyone's interested in seeing them. With respect to the work of the 5 working groups and what their mandates are, it's set out more fully within the appendices, but just to give you an overview, we have the Professional Development and Section Programming Committee, which is chaired by Christopher Devlin. And that work, which is a very big piece of work, is to review CBABC Professional Development and Sections programming, and to fill gaps where there may be gaps in other providers' materials, whether that's CLEBC or other PD providers. The second committee is termed the Development Committee, and that's chaired by Louisa Wynn. And what that committee has been doing and has done, and you'll find this in your package, is they've prepared a draft CBA-BC position statement. And again, that's in your materials. If you have any comments on it, you can email me or President Veenstra, and with any comments you might have. The third working group is Law Firm Guides. The chair of that committee is Carrie Brooks. And what they've done is they've put together an action plan of what they'd like to do moving forward over the next year with respect to how they can help law firms implement some of the calls to action. And they've also provided, Ms. Brooks has also provided a sample firm toolkit, which her firm, JFK Law, has implemented there. So if you're interested in, what can I do or what can our firm do, there's one example there, which is modeled in part after the Australian Truth and Reconciliation Commission work that happened 10 years ago. We have then the fourth group, which is called the Indigenous Leadership Committee. I'm the chair of that committee, and I've included in the materials a report called Expanding Indigenous Leadership Expanding Throughout BC, the CBA BC, and we've done quite well over the last 10 years that I've been involved. With the role of the leadership roles of Indigenous people within the CBA BC has greatly expanded within the last year, 2 years ago. We've started really working on that, and I've got to say that the past president, Michael Welch, current president, Bill Veenstra, and even before then with the previous president there, and the incoming president and vice president are very supportive of expanding Indigenous leadership within the CBA, and for that we're very grateful. The last committee is the Advocacy Committee, and the chair of that committee is President Veenstra, and they have a larger set of action items, and again, those are set out in the interim report if you're interested in looking at those. With respect to the accomplishments, it's been only a year that we've started working, but I think we've accomplished a fair amount. I will really invite any comments that you might have on not only the interim report, but any of the appendices and some of the things that we're thinking about that we're planning to do. The PD and sections policy, there is a policy there at Appendix D that I invite you to read. There is the CBA position statement that is attached as Appendix E. We have the Law Firm Practice Action Plan Sample Toolkit, which is Appendix F, and then the Indigenous Leadership Report is attached as Appendix G. A longer viewing document is the draft CBA BC Reconciliation Action Plan, which is at Appendix H. It's in draft now, but it gives you an idea or a sense of where we think that this is all going to be going with respect to the work of the implementation of the calls to action, and we really would invite your feedback on that. One of the things we're hoping to do is continue our work, of course, and then come forward in June with a more final set of documents. So if any one of you have any comments that you'd like to make, certainly bring those forward, and better yet, if you're interested and you've got some time, join the working committees, and the more the merrier. Now, just in terms of the truth side, I mentioned that there's two sides to our work. One of the things that the current executive has felt important to do, and we agree with that, is to bring in speakers to inform all of us about some of the things we might not know, or to remind us of some of the things we knew but maybe kind of forgot. Arising from that was the implementation of a speaker series. And the first speaker we had was Grant Chief Ed John, who spoke in this room about the historical context of the residential school system and the implementation of UNDRIP, and he was a very vocal speaker, and I think people very much enjoyed hearing from him. The second speaker we had was Brad Marsden, who also in this room in June 2017 brought us through an interactive presentation. I think that was quite moving for many people in the room, and it basically gave us in a very short amount of time a sense of what it feels like to have, for Indigenous families to have their families pulled apart and broken up. In September, we were lucky to hear from Ardith Walcombe QC, and I apologize, I missed the QC. And what she spoke about to us in September was how to work for change together as individuals, but within the collective of our legal profession as well. And finally, I'm not saying that we won't have other speakers, but for the purposes of this presentation, today we will be hearing from the Honorable Alexander Wolf, who was a judge of the Provincial Court of British Columbia, and he's going to be speaking to us about cultural competency. So on that, I'm going to now introduce him. And I understand that this was written by him, so I didn't try to be funny, and if it's not funny, you can blame him for it not being funny. So In British Columbia, he has been a judge for 2 years. Just prior to his appointment, Judge Alexander Wolf was a full-time lecturer and legal director of the Indigenous Community Legal Clinic at Allard Hall School of Law at UBC. The clinic provides Indigenous clients living in the Vancouver downtown east side with legal assistance, a neighborhood that Judge Wolf is very familiar and comfortable with, having spent time there growing up in hotels on Hastings. He was a sole practitioner for many years with his office located on the Mission Squamish Reserve in North Vancouver. Nationally, since he was 15, he always wanted to study politics in Ottawa and go to Dalhousie Law School. And that's what he did. He worked his way through school as an employment counselor, legal researcher, and paralegal. After accomplishing his dream of working as an insurance litigator in Toronto, not a joke, that was his dream. Of course, laugh. And in an effort to get into court more, he was a Crown prosecutor in Ontario and in the Yukon. After working as a civil litigator for the government in residential school cases, he became the managing lawyer of Vancouver's first Aboriginal Law Centre back in the 1990s. He has been called to the bar in Ontario, Yukon, Northwest Territories, and in Fiji. Internationally, he has worked as a human rights intern in India, working on atrocity cases involving women, and with tribal legal aid clinics in the Philippines, as well as spending 2 years in Fiji, where he was a senior defense counsel representing Indigenous Fijian clients at all levels of court in mostly murder, infanticide, sexual assault, and treason cases. Please welcome Judge Wolf.